Warm greetings to everyone from Fiji Islands. I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to present a paper for this e-conference entitled The Old and the New Indenture, Labor Practices and Human Rights. Without further delay, I will start with my presentation now. Our topic for this paper is the role of labor migration in shaping post-colonial literature. And with me, the co-author of this paper is Ms. Parveen Lata. With introduction, the heart-wrenching story of the indentured laborers in Fiji began in the year 1874, when Fiji signed its deed of cession to Great Britain. Since Fiji was not a conquered land, the first governor, Sir Arthur Gordon, was determined to conserve the Fijian society and culture, and thus decided that Fijians will not work on the plantations, as this would have interrupted the balancing scales between Governor Gordon and the Fijian chiefs. Indenture was basically a system of exploitation and control since ages. Beneath the untrammeled prosperity of Fiji lies the plight of an exploited migrant workforce who suffered brutality and cruelty of the overseers. The beginning of post-colonial literature was an attempt to expose the dreadful sides of colonialism on the colonized nations. Post-colonial literature primarily emerged at the time when many colonized nations were fighting their way to independence. It began in the mid-20th century as a cogent literary movement. During this period, a lot of classic post-colonial texts were written and published, whereby many writers revealed the deeper and darker secrets of colonialism. The key socio-historical trajectories inflected the post-colonial Pacific literature. Keown, in her research, elaborates that Pacific Islands writings offers a broad-ranging introduction to the post-colonial literatures of the Pacific regions. She indicates that the post-colonial Pacific literature takes its readers on a fathomless journey, discovering and investigating through a wide range of diverse cultural and literary contexts. Thus, this research paper entails to emphasize on the historical labor migration in Fiji. It will provide a brief historical background of the indenture system saga. It will also accentuate on how the labor migration contributed to the conception of post-colonial Pacific literature, which will be the core argument of this write-up. The paper will focus on a few of the writers like Viti Ihimara, Albert Wendt, Satyendra Nandan, Sudesh Mishra, Wilsoni Hereniko, Konai Helu Thaman, Subramani, and Larry Thomas, and will elaborate on how these writers have revealed themes like identity crisis, oppression, inequality, decolonization struggles, and loss of indigenous culture and language. The historical labor migration. The Indo-Fijians were brought from India as indentured laborers to work on plantations in Fiji. The recruitment began in 1879 and ended in 1916, mainly from Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, and later from South India. Colonialism provided places where labor was desired and encouraged it to exploit opportunities offered for cash employment in favor of colonies. Those tasked to recruit laborers painted would-be destination, those in impoverished circumstances well-prepared descriptions. All who have written about the indenture system have been consistent in emphasizing the role of the Arakati or the recruiter's agent in enticing Indian peasants away from village life. Laborers gave a direction to the post-colonial Pacific literature. Their plights and struggles became the utmost important subject in this discourse. Many Pacific writers directed their writings on the injustice done to these Indian migrants and focused on issues like identity crisis, loss of indigenous culture and language, oppression, and inequality. Post-colonial Pacific discourse. Post-colonial theory is a body of thought primarily concerned with accounting for the political, aesthetic, economic, historical, and social impact of European colonial rule around the world in the 18th through the 20th century. Post-colonial theory takes many different shapes and interventions, but all share a fundamental claim that the world we inhabit is impossible to understand except in relationship to the history of imperialism and colonialism rule or colonial rule. Edward Said's book Orientalism, published in 1978, is regarded as the basis of the development of the post-colonial theory. Said believes that Orientalism is a style of thought based upon an ontological and epistemological distinction made between the Orient and the Occident. In his book, he reveals that the West had painted a false image of the colonizers fabricated by the Western writers and explorers. He claims that the Western post-colonial discourse is a fabrication to justify the horrors that accompany colonialism. The earliest written works by Pacific Islanders were mission-inspired autobiographical writings in the vernacular languages. No fictional or imaginative writing emerged during this early period. In the 1970s, reacting against the distortions in the European vision of the Pacific, writers such as Albert Wendt of Samoa, then Western Samoa, argued for a literature written by Pacific Islanders. Both Subramani and Albert Wendt, in their pioneering descriptions of Pacific literature, emphasized the function of indigenous writing as being primarily to refute and recast prejudicial Western stereotypes of islanders. Finally, post-colonial theory has influenced the way we read texts, the way we understand national and transnational histories, and the way we understand the political implications of our own knowledge as scholars. Themes in Pacific literature: creative writing in English by Pacific Island writers, immigrants, and children of immigrants has been around since the islands had substantial contact with English-speaking people of the West. Evolution of themes over time in English language Pacific Island writing points to significant development of attitudes and perspectives. The first theme, identity crisis. Post-colonial Pacific literature articulates and mediates Pacific identity through the creative work of many prominent Pacific scholars. Many Pacific writers have elaborated on the issue of identity crisis that the people of the colonized nation have faced as being called the other. Albert Wendt is one of the most prominent and influential post-colonial writers in the Pacific today. His writing centers primarily in Samoa, where he was born in 1939. Gender and racial identity politics are at the heart of Albert Wendt's books and novels. An epic spanning 3 generations, Leaves of the Banyan Tree, tells the story of a family and community in Western Samoa, exploring on a grand scale such universal themes as colonialism, exploitation, identity crisis, and revenge. Albert Wendt's novella, Poliuli, and his teenage rebel characters Peep and Tagata in Flying Fox in a Freedom Tree describe the difficult, sometimes self-destructive attempt to hold ancient grounds of being up against Christian doctrine. Wendt, through his stories, emphasizes the importance of recognizing how the past shapes identities today. Similarly, Wilsoni Herenico and Teresia Teawa's drama, Last Virgin in Paradise, highlights the conflicts emerging, especially in regards to the issues of political and cultural identities. It focuses on the ways that colonialism impacted on the Pacific and their related effects on the quest by the Pacific Islanders for new post-colonial cultural identities and liberalization from the past. Another professor of literature, Subramani, who also produced the first book-length academic study of modern Pacific writing, had already written a suite of stories about Indian indentured labor and modern restlessness. Subramani's short story, Marigolds, highlights a slow anguish grips my heart, the anguish of being unsupported. Everything history and custom had prepared me for this impasse. There is no alternative life. 100 years of history on these islands has resulted in wildness and distress. This was in The Fantasy Eaters, published in 1988. This history is also fictionalized in a more upbeat way in J.S. Kanwal's The Morning, published in 1992. Vijay Mishra implies that all diasporas are unhappy, but every diaspora is unhappy in its own way. He claims that diaspora people do not feel happy with their non-hyphenated identities as indicated on their passports. The hyphenated identity is Indo-Fijian, while the passports hold them as Fijians. Thus, the appropriate new identity has been a long-standing battle for the Fiji Indian upwardly mobile and middle and upper classes. Therefore, identity crisis has demonstrated its power as one of the main thematic concerns in post-colonial literature. Another theme is oppression and social inequality. Indenture in Fiji was a system of oppression through which the labor of Indian migrants was extracted largely by coercive control. The severity of Indo-Fijian indenture has attracted the most attention from contemporaries as well as from later historians. In 2017, Subramani, a prominent Indo-Fijian author, critic, and academic, reissued his collection, The Fantasy Eaters, adding new short stories and entitling the volume Wildflowers. The reissue of Subramani's shorter writings brings the trajectory of Indo-Fijian literary engagements with colonialism, indenture, cultural tensions, and unsettled identities back into focus. On arrival in Fiji, offenses against the workers such as corporal punishment, irregular payment, poor rations, sexual abuse, and unsanitary, inadequate housing were rife and resulted in Fiji having one of the highest rates of suicide of the indentured colonies. Rajendra Prasad's book, Tears in Paradise, Suffering and Struggles of Indians in Fiji, reveals the horrific treatment of Indian indentured workers, or Girmitias, in Fiji by the British from 1978 to 1919. The indenture system, or Girmit, under which they were recruited, was slavery by another name. Working and living conditions were so atrocious that Fiji had the highest rate of suicide in the world and the highest rate of infanticide among the colonies that deployed indentured labor. Even K.N. Gillian, writing specifically on Fiji and attempting to maintain a balance, admitted that it was not without reason that Indians referred to plantation life as Narak, or hell. Professor Brijlal is best known among Pacific historians for his writings on the contemporary history of Fiji. In his book Chalo Jahaji, On a Journey Through Indenture in PG, published in 2000, he has emphasized on the struggles and oppression of the Indian indentured laborers in PG. For the laborers, work was hard and energy was sapped, not only by such toil, but also through debilitating illnesses, poor and insufficient food, and inadequate sanitation. In a short study, Eric Wolf called the plantations a class structured system of organization where the laborer sold his muscular energy and was paid for its use in the services of surplus production. Wolf holds that where a plantation has existed, it has destroyed the existing cultural values and imposed its own dictates, sometimes by the use of compulsion. The pain of Indo-Fijians is like a supporting wound that is not allowed to heal as racist bigots lurk in the shadows to pounce on them at every turn. This was highlighted by Rajendra Prasad. Overseers' brutality, abuse of the laborers when they were whipped, women's head bashing on the stones, the longer working hours, heavily pregnant mothers to be still on the fields, and after birth to return to work within days, and other behavior involving physical force intending to kill someone was practiced on the Girmitias. Writers such as Satyendra Nandan and Vijay Naidu have also highlighted about the trauma faced by indentured laborers at the hands of the British colonizers. Satyendra Nandan, in his poem Tota's Tale, depicts the oppression as he writes, rations for 7 days, lay by my chulha, no sharing of food, no, the overseer warned, God, what a country, where sharing food was an offense. The words penned by Nandan showcases the torment of Girmitias. He signifies that the laborers were not allowed to share their food with those who did not have enough. He further highlights, without food, Baiju worked for 3 days, giddy and sweating, hurricane hunger churning. Vijay Naidu's prose title, Violence of Indenture in PG, highlights the British overseers practices violence on indentured laborers by beating them with chabuks or whips. Violence by overseers invariably took the form of assault. Stated by Vijay Naidu, violence in the plantations took the form of homicide and attempted homicide, suicide, general physical violence, and sexual violence. Naidu gave brief account of indentured laborers by publishing a portion of interviews by Girmitias. He interviewed a Girmitia named Marda Naikar, who told that both men and women got hiding from the overseers who lifted their clothes and kicked them in bottom. Another Girmitia, Basir Muhammad, highlighted in his interview that his pregnant wife was whipped while she was hoeing the field. A heart-wrenching story of Girmitias, Naraini, goes as Ahmad Ali writes that Naraini's case epitomizes Girmit. He elaborates about her being trustful, innocent, and a beautiful teenager from Mathura who seeks a new life in a new land. A child died after 4 days of birth. She was instructed to return to work. Feeling weak, Naraini chose to take a rest, but was critically beaten by the overseer, thus ending up in a hospital. Classified as broken in body, devastated in spirit, she could never live a normal life. Due to her excruciating pains and sorrows, she labeled Girmit as Narak, meaning hell. A similar suffering was experienced by Kunti, a Girmitia as well, who was sexually molested by the Sardars and overseers. Believed to be a quarrelsome woman and to be punished for this behavior, an overseer made an indecorous proposal to her. Anyhow, Kunti managed to free herself from the disobedient overseer and plunged into a nearby river. Larry Thomas, a renowned Pacific playwright and director, highlights about issues of race, poverty, and inequality through his play Outcasts and his film A Race for Plights. After independence, Fiji became a multiracial society whereby different races of people resided. However, there was always racial tension as Indo-Fijians were considered inferior by the indigenous race. Thomas, through his film A Race for Rights, showcases this difference and tries to signify the importance of unity and living together in a multiracial nation. Outcasts highlights the issues of poverty and inequality. Thomas raises a question on the credibility of the society we live in and also enables the readers to understand the way we treat one another despite gaining independence. Given the emphasis on race both in plantation life and the colonial environment in Fiji, one might suggest that Indian laborers who had fled caste system found themselves engulfed by another form of discrimination, which too was determined by the ancient or accident of birth and not through personal choice or achievement. Another theme, decolonization struggles. The recasting of decolonization through the lens of cultural agents demand a recognition that a key element of the process of uncoupling colonizer and colonized involve the imagination of post-colonial futures. These practices take place in novels, poetry, and theater as much as they do in law, philosophy, or political theory. Decolonizing the mind, the politics of language in African literature by the Kenyan novelist and post-colonial theorist Ngugi wa Thiong'o is a collection of essays about language and its constructive role in national culture, history, and identity. The book, which advocates linguistic decolonization, is one of Ngugi's best known and most cited nonfiction publications. Ngugi wa Thiong'o is one writer who tried his best to revive and revalue local language through his literature. As in Africa, Thiong'o's writing had been at the forefront of decolonizing the model. According to Ahmed, an Indian critic, India also had inconsiderable advocacy, where due to the unbroken power of local languages and their literary traditions, throughout the colonial period, a strong drive to revalue the literatures and other arts employing Indian languages led to the revival of it. The Tongan scholar Konai Heluthaman discusses the paradox and necessity of decolonizing higher education. Konai Heluthaman claims that decolonizing Pacific studies is about reclaiming indigenous perspectives, knowledge, and wisdom that have been devalued or suppressed because they were or are not considered important or worthwhile. Tracy Banivanua-Ma, a pioneering and profoundly influential historian, shows us how Pacific people engaged with a worldwide political consciousness committed to asserting their own histories and futures. At last, a history of decolonization in the Pacific from an indigenous perspective that makes us rethink conventional understandings of the process of decolonization itself, what it is and what it should be and was. Loss of indigenous culture and language. Language is often a central question in post-colonial studies. During colonization, colonizers usually imposed or encouraged the dominance of their native language onto the peoples they colonized, even forbidding natives to speak their mother tongues. Likewise, the loss of culture and traditions has been a prominent theme in post-colonial literature. How the new Western ideologies and trends engulf the traditional ways and beliefs of the natives of the colonized nations is often elaborated by the Pacific writers. Raymond Pillay, a prominent Fiji writer, has highlighted the issue of loss of indigenous culture and language through his short stories, The Funeral and The Celebration. In The Funeral, Pillay shows how disinterested the protagonist is with his culture and traditions. The story shows how Edward, the protagonist, reluctantly performs the last rites of his dead grandmother. He signifies that the protagonist puts up a facade to be performing the rituals, when in reality he is ashamed of it. In the story, Edward is also shown to be ashamed of his language, as when the priest starts to read the prayer in Hindi, Edward mumbles, "Why didn't the fool pray in English?" Similarly, in his short story, The Celebration, Pillay highlights on the theme of loss of culture when the protagonist Rama insists on slaughtering a goat on Christmas when it has not been a year since his father passed away. Moreover, writers such as Satyendra Nandan and Sudesh Mishra have also written about loss of language in their texts. Through his essay Writing for Our Children, Nandan emphasizes that the people of Fiji are so much influenced by the English language that they consider their mother tongue as inferior or second-class language. He writes, "Anything that is native or your own is second-rate or shameful." Correspondingly, Sudesh Mishra, in his poem, The Loving Song of R.J. Tangaya, tries to show the influence English writers have on the people of Fiji. The title of Mishra's poem is a replica of T.S. Eliot's poem, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. In an interview, Mishra explained that the whole purpose of replicating the title of T.S. Eliot's poem was to attract the attention of the Fijian readers, who were profoundly attracted to the works of English writers only. With this, he clearly implied that Fijian readers take no pride in reading and acknowledging the work of their local writers. Finally, the fragments of ancestral culture and migrants brought with them were lost quicker in some places than in others. Western values and practices were introduced and embraced or adapted to different degrees in different places. Conclusion: labor migration plays a significant role in shaping post-colonial literature. Mainly the Pacific literature, as many post-colonial texts are based on the plight and struggles of the indentured laborers. Had it not been for the indenture system, the people of the Pacific nations would not have seen the hidden talents of their local writers, such as Satyendra Nandan, Subramani, Albert Wendt, Konai Heluthaman, Sudesh Mishra, Raymond Pillay, and Brij Lal, who with their commendable writings have rewritten the history through the eyes of the Girmitias themselves. Thank you so much for listening to the presentation. That brings us to the end of our presentation. If you will be having any questions, then we will be more than happy to answer the questions and to take the comments. Thank you so much.